All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have 9 o'clock on my computer. I call this Sawyer County Public Safety Committee meeting to order. Can we have roll call, Madam Clerk, please?
Ron Buckholz,
Present.
Mark Helwig,
Here.
Jeff Haney, Marshall Savitsky, Jim Evans.
Here.
He's virtual. You have a quorum.
Okay, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, number 4, certification of compliance with the opens meeting law.
This meeting was noticed to the media and the public as required by section 19.84 of Wisconsin statutes.
Okay, number 5, meeting agenda is set. We'll go to number 6, we'll go into public comment. I'm not gonna read the whole public comment spiel, everybody's aware of it. The first one is Linda Zomer.
Good morning, Linda Zolmer, Edgewater property owner, and my public comment today is with regard to an email I sent out this morning to members of this committee, the zoning committee, and the county administrator, and I did not have emails for Mr. Frommel or Mr. Mrotek or emergency planning. On April 25th, the zoning committee will be hearing a conditional use permit for the proposed siting of 8 shipping containers of pyrotechnics at the old Thompson Pit off Highway 63 in the town of Hayward. Last night, the town of Hayward Plan Commission met to look at what the zoning committee forwarded to them regarding, it's actually a mixed use of that property, which is sand mining, commercial storage units, and these storage of containers of pyrotechnics. The conditions that plan commission requested of the applicant did not agree to. And what I am, in my email asked this morning, is for the county to bring together law enforcement and emergency management and responders to maybe suggest to the zoning committee what conditions would be appropriate should this site be approved. I noticed that Liz has pointed out in the posted out in the hallway that there is a county local emergency planning committee meeting on April 16th. So maybe that's an opportunity for all those parties who I'm assuming may be together in one place to talk about what would be the appropriate conditions. So for instance, the applicant does not want to put fencing around these containers, did not mention any camera systems. But again, this is not just a zoning matter. I think it's a public safety matter. And for those of you who have more expertise or who have contacts at state levels to help research this, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else want to speak on public comment? Anybody online? Okay. Number 7, consider approval of the minutes of the previous meeting on 3/6/25.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from 3/6/25.
Okay, we have a motion by
I'll
Mr.
second the
Helwig,
motion.
second by Mr. Savitsky to approve the previous minutes on 3/6 number 25. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries to approve. Number 8, Circuit Court, do we have any of the judges? No. Is there a reason? Are they that busy that one of them can't attend? Can anybody answer that? Or- Okay. Your Honor, hey, all right. Thanks, Marge. Man, I've never been called that in my 70 years of
There
politics.
you go.
Okay, I can understand it now that they're busy, okay. So, anybody can give an update on anything through that? Okay, all right, we'll move on. Okay, number 9, Clerk of Courts, Marge, you got something for us, don't you?
I just want to give an update. We are down our civil small claims clerk because Judge Eckel stole Miss Christie from us. Thankfully, she's been able to jump in and help us with some of the court proceedings to help cover. We're going to have to rely on that a lot more because in addition to losing her, we're also losing our newest criminal clerk, Emily. She's moving out of the area. She's having difficulty finding decent affordable housing in this area. so she has to leave. And her last day in my report said April 25th. It has been moved up to April 17th. So we are advertising for both positions presently, so.
And you've had any applicants yet? or
A
did-
few,
few.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, just gonna make, so Christy is now Judge Yackel's judicial assistant, and Amparo, who you're all familiar with, left us to go work at LCO, just in case
Okay.
nobody was aware of that.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Marge? Mr. Evans, any questions?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Okay, number 10, Sheriff's Department report. Patrol report, Lieutenant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You can see from our report here that the call volume has increased to 608. 3-month trend shows us from 643 in January. February was 581. However, was a decrease from this time last year where we had 718 calls for service. For the reporting period, our patrol deputies have issued 57 citations for traffic offenses, 21 written warnings, 13 non-traffic citations. Per community maps, there have been 8 total crashes, no additional personal injuries or fatalities. Bringing our total crashes to date to 65 total crashes, 9 with personal injury and 0 fatalities. Just a couple points, it's been a relatively slow month from March. In the past several months, there's been new process in how the county and schools deal with truancy, and has moved the primary issuing citations for violations to a more deflection model that helps deal with some of the root causes of truancy. It's as reflected as we probably see a decrease now in our non-traffic citations, which typically were our truancy violations as they were reported. I will also add, as reflected earlier here, March has been one of the lowest months of property damage collisions in many years. So for whatever that reason, maybe it's a fluke, maybe it's because we're making more contacts out there, but whatever it is, we'll take it.
It's a good thing.
Thank you. That concludes
Thank
my
you,
report.
Lieutenant. Anyone have any questions for Lieutenant Rapinski?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Evans, you have any questions?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right, thank you. Number B, jail report, Lieutenant.
Thank you. Our inmate population for March was at, average daily population was at 51, 11 of those being females, 40 of them being males. Our average probation incarceration is at 16, pre-sentence incarceration is at 24, and 11 sentenced inmates. We currently have 1 on electronic monitoring. The day that this report was generated, we had 47 inmates in-house, and our current unemployment rate's at 71%.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Lieutenant? Mr. Evans, you have any questions?
No, sir, Lieutenant Waller did a fine job.
Yes, they all do, so.
Yes.
All right,
they all did.
thank you. All right, number C, code enforcement.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So as of March, the revenue for, the pound and everything was all from licensing pretty much, and then admission to the pound, which was higher this month than it has been all year, with 11 dogs coming to the pound and all 11 getting reclaimed to their owners. However, revenue for the licensing was down compared to last year. That's just mainly because the rabies clinic was in March last year. We're doing it in April, which, by the way, the rabies clinic is tomorrow and Saturday. So that's coming up, and we're pretty excited and ready for that. Calls for at-large dogs were the top complaints. We also had a lot of noise complaints, so like barking and that kind of stuff. Otherwise, for public health, just been doing a lot of meetings, a lot of trainings, that kind of stuff with them. And that's all I got.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead.
I don't have a question. I just want to say to the Sheriff's Department, I do like this arrest data information that you guys put in there. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a good deal. Thank you for that.
Just if I could add,
Yes.
I'd like it to, a little background on why it's in there, I think, is last month, CJCC, we had, well, I should say, prior to that, some of us have been contacted by a journalist who's working on a story that we believe will be in the local newspaper at some point, but asking some questions about arrest data and inmate population. And it's kind of a takeoff of some questions regarding the CJCC MOU and what data is being tracked. So Lieutenant Weller did a great job. He pulled out the arrest data for the last couple of years, broke it down by department arresting agency, who's putting people in our jail, and then specifically to native and non-native. So that's why it's in there. But yeah, it does summarize really nicely. I think a couple of things. One is just that specific point, but also this is the perspective of our jail is not the sheriff's jail, it's the county jail. And so we have inmates being put in there from the police department and LCO.
So that should make LCO a lot more happier now that all that's getting put on and they can see how many natives and,
The data is the data, you know?
yeah.
Andy, is that, I don't recall, is that in the CJCC?
In the CJCC MOU last year, what was asked to be put in there was that the jail report that is prepared monthly has a breakdown of that data,
So
of native and non-native.
is that data now in the packet too? Like we have here?
They'll get this report. So they'll see the summation of the arrest data.
Yeah.
But if you go back a page, usually the second page of Lieutenant Weller's report has the race breakdown. That was put back in last year at
Yeah,
the request
I
of that.
recall.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any more questions? All right, number 11, emergency management.
Morning, thank you.
Morning.
Earlier in March, I attended the 2025 Governor's Conference on Emergency Management, took classes and received certification in tornado awareness, and attended other breakout sessions, including mitigation planning, mass casualty, active shooter, and cyber threats and security. Just on Tuesday, we hosted the Roles of Elected Official Training Part 2, which was the workshop portion of our EOP training, Emergency Operation Plan training for the townships. We had a really good turnout. There was, I think, 13 individuals representing 5 different townships in Sawyer County. Also working on updating the Sawyer County Emergency Operations Plan. The state of Wisconsin has designated April 7th through the 11th of this year to be Severe Weather Awareness Week. So we'll be focusing on different severe weather and posting it throughout the week. And then we have our LAPC meeting, local emergency planning meeting, April 16th, which will be held at the Enbridge facility. And we'll be beginning discussions of our hazard mitigation plan update. As far as dispatch goes, I'd just like to recognize our dispatchers. National Telecommunicators Week is April 13th through the 19th. It's a week designated annually throughout the year to honor public safety telecommunicators for their commitment and service and sacrifice. The Sawyer County would like to thank the dispatchers past and present, noting that their dedication does not go unnoticed. It's also a busy time in the communications center as AT&T and Motorola are in and out installing our new EZNet project, which has been ongoing since 2023. We have a go live date starting in mid-May, hoping that all goes well. That's all. There's one correction to my report. Under calls for service, it says February 24. That should say March 24. So calls are down slightly from March of 25 compared to March of 2024.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? I attended Nicole's and the gentleman's EOP workshops, and they were very, very helpful. We got a lot of good information out of there. I attended both of them, and I wished I would have known back when we had the big storm a little more about what I learned at that workshop. So thank you for that, Nicole. All right. Public Safety Radio Network update. We're going to go with that, Andy.
It's not in your packet. We received the updated proposal after more planning has gone on from GenCom yesterday, so I emailed it out to the committee. Gary Peltier and I think Aaron are both on by Zoom for the meeting, and I'll just have Gary. Gary, do you want to share the proposal from your computer?
Yes, I can do that.
All right, I'll have Gary share it and then he can explain the updated proposal and where we're at.
Let me just grab it here. Okay. Share the screen. Okay, can everybody see my screen here?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so here's the updated proposal. The main highlights, but let me jump down to kind of the system design in a way. The system design, after reviewing of the towers, we are looking at using one of the bug tussle towers that they're building near Wooddale. They call it Edgewater, as well as the Meadowbrook tower that Bug Tussle is using. So I've been talking with them about getting a sample lease, and they're going to have a fenced-in compound. We would have to add buildings for the communication equipment shelters. And then we're also working with the radio station, WOJB, working on an MOU right now to use their tower as well. And then part of this project would be building a new tower in the town of Draper at their landfill site on Broadway? I've talked to the clerk there about the site. I've already reached out to talk to the DNR, and I've also been talking to our consulting engineer that would have to do all the work to make it legal to put a tower there and the site plan and everything. So that's the basic design. We also have the tower that's existing now at Dairyland, or that's a Dairyland tower outside of Hayward. And then in the city, they're going to be doing some work on the water tower. So we're going to have to move to a different site. And we've worked with the city water to move over to the Nyman Avenue water tower, just north of the sheriff's department. And then after reviewing the maps, talking with the sheriff and emergency management, there's a site that the state has at the Flambeau Department of Corrections. There is a radio tower there that they use on part of their WISCOM. And we did add this site as a site to provide coverage in the southeast portion of the county. If you look at, that's kind of our microwave map, but mobile coverage map, you're going to have it pretty much everywhere in the county, which I don't think you have mobile coverage everywhere now in the county. When you start looking at the portables, if we outdoor portable coverage, we have really good portable coverage in the county outdoors. Once we start getting in buildings, we are starting to see some holes in different areas for in-building coverage. And these are with the Flambeau site. You can see that down in the right-hand corner here on both of these. So outdoor on the left, indoor on the right. If you do not do Flambeau, outdoor coverage, you're going to have issues. And indoors even can be worse. So if there is somebody escaped in that area, you're not going to have coverage on foot if you're in this area. So that's why we do recommend and decided it'd be best to add a 7th site in that Flambeau region. We also did some paging maps, and paging is a little harder because it's worn on hip. There's no external antenna. So it's still much better than you have now, but your outdoor paging cover is what you're going to have here on the left, and your indoor coverage is what you see on the right. We basically are covering the populated areas for indoor coverage. So let's go back and see what we're looking at here. This is a kind of a breakdown per site. A couple things that we added that we weren't on there before. We did add some alarms. That way you will have at each site, you'll have a smoke alarm, you'll have temperature, high temperature, low temperature, when you lose power, things like that. And then we're going to be All the sites will be connected via a microwave link. And I showed you that. That's this right here. Pipestone, which is a current tower, we're not going to use that for the radio transmitting, but we do need it to get a signal out to Draper. So we are using it basically as a pass-through. But all these ones that, it's nice to get everything into a ring. So if you sever any part of the ring, the rest of the system continues to work. These sites, you cannot get them into the ring because of the terrain. However, they are redundant paths. So there's basically two microwave radios on each tower. So if one of the sites does, if you lose one radio, you still have a redundant radio. So there is a hot standby on these individual paths. So that's it, because the new radio system is pretty much a networked radio system using IP technology, just like you have at your home. So there's your microwave backhaul equipment that's needed for all of that, and that includes turnkey installation. Here are some services, the engineering, project management. We also put a little money in for load studies, WOJB and the Pipestone, and I believe the Dairyland is what we're looking at. We're going to have a structural engineer verify that it can take the extra loading of the dishes. We just want to make sure there are no problems with that. So we put an allowance in there for that. If that is less, we'll bill less on that. And then all the FCC licensing that is needed for this project. The last thing, so if you look at the radio system project, 775, microwave is 411, and the service is about 150. If you look at the towers and the shelters, it goes on the 2 pages. Years ago, you could put up a building at a site for under 100,000. Nowadays, it's like building a house. There's a lot more. There's a cement foundation. We're also putting generators at all of these sites with propane tanks for emergency backup power. And some of the site will need some work with graveling the compound and different things. So Edgewater and Meadowbrook will be the sites that are be co-located with Bug Tussle. So those are pretty much going to be the same. At Hayward, we're going to do an outdoor cabinet. We can use a smaller footprint there because they don't have a lot of land there. So we're going to do a smaller outdoor cabinet. It's not ideal, especially working in the wintertime. But that is a site that if you lost Hayward, you still have the other tower fairly close. And then the big ticket item is really building a tower at Draper. We had to go up a little higher than we originally proposed to 250 feet, and that will provide that coverage you see on those maps. This includes the engineering, working with the DNR, the tower, fence, the road that will need to be built, any tearing down of any trees that are in the area that need to be done for the forestry to make room for the site, and the tower and the concrete and everything. So, and the lighting. There will be red lights or strobes during the day and red lights at night on that tower. So, and that's a turnkey tower project there. So right now, the overall project is 2.5. We did option the flambeau at the bottom, but we do believe that is an option you want to take, which brings the total project up to 2.6. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, sir.
I believe that flambeau one is a great idea. I think we should utilize that for Southern Sawyer County. And I have one other question with the town of Draper. They're under new town board members. Is that going to make an effect on what's already been approved to put a tower there?
Well, I guess they haven't approved it yet, but talking to the clerk, Chris, and he seems, a lot of people are very favorable. They said they actually talked about that as a potential tower site even before I called them. So it's already been on their radar, and they thought that would be a good site for a county. And they know that they lack radio coverage in their area. So they seem very excited about having a site there because of the better public safety paging and radio system. So there is, talking to the clerk, there didn't seem to be any issues, but there are, different things that will have to be gone through as part of the project to get official approval.
Mr. Elliott?
Yeah, the MOU with, was it WOJB?
Yes.
Do you see any problems there?
Andy, I don't know if you want to comment. I know you've been talking to them and I sent you a sample, but it seemed like they were receptive to everything, correct?
Yeah, the TGB took it up last week, and I'd say I would call it tentative approval, subject to completing an MOU. They want us to propose the MOU or a lease agreement back to them. So yeah, like Gary said, he's given us a draft. We're working on getting that together. I think there are some details to work out, exact location of the tower, and there probably will be they're asking for us to propose how much we're going to pay for it. So we have to work out.
Yeah, I would definitely look on the lower side of it because you are providing public safety radio coverage for their residents as well. So
I thought there was already a tower out there we were gonna use.
This is WOJB.
Okay, but it's only said that where it was gonna be.
Right, we're probably going to end up paying something to use the tower.
Oh, sure.
yeah.
We just don't have that dollar amount settled out yet.
Typically on public safety, some folks like US Fire lately, they sometimes they want $2,500. We talked to SBA Tower, they wanted $2,500 for one of theirs, but we're seeing public safety lower between $800 to $1,000 on something like this. And I believe, Andy, when you talked with Bug Tussle, they were looking at approximately $1,000 for their two towers, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And so $1,000 or under, it's favorable for us to lease. Once we get up to the $2,000 amount, then it'd be more from a return on investment, it'd be better for us to look at building. So I was going to mention that a little bit, this is still in line with our project budget, but and it's also in line with what we projected for annual operating expenses for the system. Just to keep in mind that right now our annual cost, I think, is around $30,000 for operating our public radio system. You're going to have some leases now, so they'll go on top of that operating cost. But we had anticipated that as well.
Will that be a locked in for so many years type of thing?
Yeah.
So they don't say, well, we got you, well, let's move it up to 1,500.
Well, there probably will be escalators on there.
Escalators,
Most
yeah.
leases have some 3% escalators per year.
Per year?
That's usually what they do per year, a 3% escalator.
Yeah, we have, so
And
it'll
that's
be,
negotiable.
it'll be locked in the extent that we'll know what we're going to be paying. We're going to try to have long-term deals. It's no different. We have cell phone towers on county land that we lease to them, and those have escalators in there as well.
And one comment on the Draper site, the state of Wisconsin has identified that area to put a new site for them in the future. So this could be a tower that could possibly be shared. They put their own building, so when we build a compound, the compound can house more people. So possibly you could have a cell company come and talk to you about going on that tower, and then the county could possibly get some revenue off of that Draper Tower as well. So we are building it big enough to support stuff from the state, and the state is already using your Pipestone Tower, and we're asking about using their Flambeau Tower. So I think the state of Wisconsin would be very interested if you put a tower in Draper.
And is there any action we need to take?
I think I was just going to offer up that this is within what we had passed at the county board as far as project budget, but we didn't have to come back in 2 months with the final budget, which this would be it. We had approved in the resolution 2.825 as a projected budget, which is this
Well, within.
was a base amount, which is this plus some contingency.
Yeah, and the reason for a contingency, let's say if we do a site survey at one of the towers and it won't support the additional equipment, sometimes you may have to do a tower modification. And so there's contingency money just in case there's something like that. Those are the unforeseen things you don't know.
So I think the action out of this committee would be to send this to the county board for approval. as we're supposed to do within 2 months. Next week at the finance committee, we have on there to restart the conversation on how we're gonna pay for it. Most likely be a bond, but because of the timing with this, and the way the, financial markets are, it's probably gonna be best to not actually do the bonding till later this year sometime. We wouldn't be looking to go ahead and bond for it next month, but at least get the county board on board with this is the cost and this is how we're gonna pay for it, later this year.
But we can't make a motion to send it on to the county board because it's not listed as that, right?
Oh, it's not on the, it says or action, doesn't it? Possible action on the,
I don't mind.
I thought I saw that. Oh, wrong one.
It just says Public Safety Radio Network update.
Yeah, we'll send it off from finance committee then.
Okay. I mean, like I say, that Flambeau one is great idea. We
Yeah.
need to put one there. And I got one other question on the WOJB tower. When are we supposed to know what they're gonna charge for leasing that tower?
I don't have a
Okay.
time frame on when we're gonna find out,
Andy,
They're kind of
you may want to
negotiating.
add, yeah, the fact that they've asked about the MOU already, and we've given them a drawing of what we're looking for equipment, I would think they'd be able to have some idea of what they're looking, or are they looking for the county to give them a price?
They're looking, well, the TGB is looking for the county. I was told to come back with a amount to the TGB.
With the price? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're dealing with, there's the WOJB staff and then there's the TGB. So we're working kind of a triangle right now. But Gary, I probably will loop you in on that conversation.
Yep. That's
What am
fine.
I concerned, well, I'm not concerned about using that tower, but is the tribe, the LCOPD is gonna be utilizing that.
Yep, and they're well aware of that. That's one of the reasons we're gonna get on that tower.
Right.
With the sheriff, your involvement, and then Chief Taylor got really involved and asked a lot of questions and took it through the TGB for us. That's the feedback I got, so I want to thank her for that.
Good.
But they're well aware of the benefit it's gonna provide to the reservation and their EMS.
And
Yeah, we gave them this drawing. We would be putting basically 5 antennas on the tower, 3 microwave dishes and 2 LMR antennas. And also look at using their building there's 2 equipment racks that'll go in the buildings. So having their building as well as part of the lease is definitely favorable. So I think tell them that you're doing about 1,000 for bug tussle, and I think or maybe even go in at lower at 600 or 800 and try to see what they want to do.
Yep, I have a number in mind.
okay,
Yep, perfect.
good deal. So, all right, any more questions? Okay,
When will this be completed approximately?
May of 2026.
That's a good guess. So couple things, the towers at Meadowbrook and Edgewater, those they've been approved to start, but they haven't started the construction on those. So I reached out to Bug Tussle this morning to ask them, do they have a construction timeline? So I'm waiting to hear back from them. I'm assuming because they've already been granted FAA approval and it's already in the database, it's just imminent. So I'm assuming they're waiting because most of them received approval just over the winter. So a lot of times they don't want to start digging ground until it thaws out a little bit. So if they do their towers and get them done by the end of the summer, then we can start putting in at least the radio system on the west side of the county. The Draper Tower, the regulatory items that have to be met, and through the federal government and the state government, it usually takes a good 6 to 8 months just to go through that process. They have to do an archaeological survey and NEPA to make sure we're not disturbing any burial grounds or anything like that. But by the time we get notice to proceed to build that tower, it'll be probably the end of this year. So most likely that tower would be built in the spring of next year. About this time, we would start on that. So overall, everything being completed, it would be the summer of '26.
You were close.
Well, I say that because the contract that I read stated 1 year from the date of signature, and if
Yeah.
all
It-
goes, should be May.
The radio equipment in that, can be done in 3 to 4 months. It's the civil work that usually takes the longest and the delays. So, and that is the buildings, installing the buildings, putting up the towers.
Gary, from a technical side, the whole system doesn't need to be in place for it to work. I mean. can you
Correct.
explain how
You
it gets
would-
phased in?
Yeah, you could, if let's say, we got everything done and you just didn't have Draper, you definitely have lack of coverage on that side of the county. But yes, you could get all the other system up and running.
Mr. Evans, you have any questions on this?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Savitsky?
No, Your Honor. I enjoyed this too much.
Hey, I'm flying high. So, all right, if there's no more questions, we'll go on to number 12, Child Support Department. Anyone here from Child Support? No? Okay, she has a report. Any questions with the report? No? All right. Number 13, Emergency Services. Ambulance report, Mr. Fremmel.
All right, well, as you can see that we're a little busier than we were last year. I did put in here, there's now that we've been utilizing that third crew that have been, putting together with part-timers, you can see that our approximately run times are almost half what they used to be. So 11 minutes is pretty good, I think. On here is just kind of a rough draft of what I was thinking of, like how to utilize this third crew as as townships and fire departments start upgrading their stuff, maybe starting some conversations with them about, outlying stations. It's just basically my thoughts that I put down so you guys can look at, either think it's a good idea or tear it apart, either one. I just think that it would, if we're gonna go and we end up utilizing a third crew, that's a full-time third crew, that at this time, this model in my head makes more sense, but I really, like I said, it's really, really early. This is just one of my thoughts on how we can cover the county a little bit better. Other than that, you got my total run volumes. Obviously, things are, Hayward and Bass Lake are our top places that we have runs. The units are starting to get more spread out like I wanted to. Unit 2 is being utilized more for 911s, and you can see that number is starting to rise, obviously, but Unit 1 is still taking the brunt of most of the calls. However, it is starting to match what I'm hoping for, where it's almost a 1-for-1 when they get paged out. Other than that, you can see a majority of our responses are 911 calls. We did almost 40 transfers. Medical transports are basically taking from people from the hospital back to like an assisted living or something like that. Blood draws for the sheriff's departments. We've done 5 intercepts. Mutual aided, which means that our ambulance went out to a different county with a full crew a couple times, and then there was a couple fire standbys that we were doing. We've done the Stop the Bleed at the LCO College. They have a very good facility that we could utilize where the on-call crews can all meet and at least be able to cover, but still get training. Our new ambulance is almost ready for inspection. We're just waiting for a couple of the equipment that we ordered to get in, and that should be in service here shortly. Any questions?
Go ahead.
Can you explain your response time? How do you get the 12 minutes? Because this seems like that's a pretty short time for getting out to these.
So what it is it's the average of all the calls, right? So we when we download our CAD, we get a in route time and we get a on scene time. And then we take that average for all the calls and that's your average response time. So, I mean, you're gonna have outliers, you're gonna have some that are only a minute or two if you're going to Valley, or if you're going from, Ojibwa to Connors Lake, that's gonna be, 30 minutes.
Sisebagama.
Yeah, they're out there. If you're out there, you're out there. And that's why, like, one of my thoughts is that rotational where we can start putting people more in the central county. However, that's a budget increase of just something that I'm not ready to talk about yet. This is kind of a thought process that I'm going through and I wanted you guys to just kind of look at and see what I'm thinking.
What's the response time for Loretta Draper area?
From Ojibwa, Loretta Draper is, was it 20 miles?
It's
So
over 20 minutes.
it's over about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would just say that, I mean, that's, Mr. Firmo's putting that in the report, the average for all the calls. I wouldn't de-emphasize it, but, because if we're slow on all the calls, or slower, you're gonna see that number get longer. But I would just use that for what it is, as one measuring stick of response times, because it is weighted. I mean, obviously, if in the city of Hayward, and that's over a quarter of our calls are in the city, over a quarter of our calls, most of those are gonna be a couple minutes. But or the town of Hayward, you add those, and those are, now we're over half of our calls, and those are gonna be relatively short too. So I wouldn't want the people out in, Draper or Sand Lake or Round Lake to see that number and.
Right, and that's why I asked the
Yeah.
question.
So we've broken those all down.
What do you mean, 12 minutes?
So I
It took 45 minutes the last time.
Right.
You know?
So there was a question, like the town of Draper, and I've said that the average call time is 20 minutes. Well, there are calls in the town of Draper that take 50 minutes. But there are some that are on the lower end that balance out to the 20. So when we broke down all the towns for 2024, most of those outlying towns have an average response time around, I mean, almost all the towns have an average response time of 20 minutes or less. But there are definitely calls within some of those towns that take 40 minutes. Or potentially and that's with the, like, trying to think of a good example. That's with the closest responding, like, Draper is, it's a good example. Draper is usually a Ojibwa ambulance. If Ojibwa cannot make it, then we have to either dispatch something from Hayward or get mutual aid. And if you have to do that, you're almost guaranteed that call is going to be 40 minutes plus, or 50 minutes. We've had calls that are over an hour. Mutual aid is not
Closest
reliable.
mutual aid.
Park Falls. We have to, and so we have had a call, so we have to call, our dispatch gets a hold of Price County Dispatch. Price County Dispatch has to get a hold of Park Falls. And then Park Falls has to decide if they can put a crew together in order to go to Draper, because they don't have a crew sitting at the shop waiting to go. They have to, so all that time, that can take 20 minutes just for them to decide if they can respond.
So we might as well just respond anyways.
Well, we've had calls where, like unit, and honestly, it's, I would say it's luck of the draw. Ojibwa ambulance averages one call a day. If it's the one time of the day where they're on a call and we have to make that decision, it's gonna be you have to decide, is it worthwhile to take, now that we have 2 rigs in Hayward, it's a little better, because otherwise, if we took the rig out of Hayward and had them go, that means Hayward, town of Hayward, Bass Lake doesn't have an ambulance here, and that's where, 2/3 of our calls are in this circle right around Hayward.
Ojibwa takes care of Sand Lake area?
They kind of split it.
Split it, yep.
Hayward and.
Yeah, Hayward and Ojibwa.
Same with town of Hunters, south side is Ojibwa, north side is Hayward.
Yeah.
That just seems like an awful low number for one a day for a facility.
It's, if you were to base an ambulance on the call volume in that area of the county, it doesn't make any sense, but you have to have it there for the response time for those areas.
Well, and if you look at, like, when Sand Lake went with North Memorial, right? North Memorial didn't put on an extra crew because they got Sand Lake. They still cover with the same crew coming out of Spooner. So, I mean, you don't, an ambulance service, they don't judge unless that Sand Lake had 100 runs, a day, there would be no reason for them to extend their service area with a newer crew and increase their cost. So,
Yeah, and, yeah, it's a perfectly imperfect system. I mean, look at Hayward. Hayward has a high volume of calls, as does the town of Hayward, because of population base, but also because this is where your care facilities are. And that's a large number of our runs are people in care facilities, and people, as they get older, move into housing that's usually in the city, so they're closer to their daily needs. So you're gonna have a higher volume of calls.
Well, I know
In this
everybody wants,
area.
you know, service in every town,
yeah.
but some of these people, and I think some of these people don't realize it's impossible. It's like, you know, well, why don't we put one here, why put one here? It's like,
It's only money.
exactly.
It is.
We have plenty of it.
And that, yeah,
No.
at some point you're gonna have, I mean, John's, like I told him, he's doing a good job of spitballing ideas with the fire departments.
Good stuff.
He's had some ideas on Edgewater and Birchwood. I think I suggested that, we're submitting all the information we can to the towns that are doing the ambulance study with the consultant, and to wait to see how that plays out. There's also, you can't pick up a paper or watch the news without seeing a story on a weekly basis of some area of the state that's struggling with EMS service. There was just, there's an article about the city of Eau Claire, because there's new state legislation being proposed on regional EMS services to help municipalities and counties kind of not be bound by city jurisdictional boundaries or county boundaries, but what makes the most sense for a region, because like in Eau Claire, the city services are now working with a lot of their towns there as well to provide ambulance, because the volunteer services just aren't there. And that's probably going to be an option for this area going down the road. Because like we just covered, I mean, if Sawyer County can't serve a call in the county and you have to rely on mutual aid, that mutual aid's not always that reliable. You've got volunteer services in most of the other directions that take a long time to respond. That's why we end up relying on ourselves to serve most of our calls.
John, I was curious, are these other areas, these towns receptive to your proposal that you're talking about and your,
So I've talked, casually with them. Yes and no. So, I mean, it's all gonna be about money. It's all gonna be about their funding. I think everything's mostly positive, right? And just like anything, you gotta start from somewhere. So this is my thought. And like I said, I welcome people hammering it apart and adding or to distract, subtracting, but I think that eventually we're gonna end up having like a full-time third crew, probably not this year or next year, but eventually it'll be like a thing where we're gonna do it. And then it's gonna be like, do we have 2 full-time ambulances in the city of Hayward where we're at right now, or do we utilize a different model where we can spread them out a little more? And I'm for the model of spreading out a little more, right? And utilizing a different crew configurations for different situations. Because like the city of Hayward, I mean, under a contract with this, or a contract, but the agreement through the state, we always have to have a paramedic en route. But the reality is, like in the city of Hayward, a lot of the calls to the nursing homes and stuff could be handled with a BLS crew. Where your bigger calls, like to, Round Lake, Sand Lake, and the outlying town of Haywards, those are your accidents, your heart attacks, your strokes, like that, where you're a ways from the hospital and you need that paramedic level service more, So there's a lot of thoughts that I got putting together, but it's, just the groundwork right now, just thoughts right now.
I like your idea.
Yeah, I think that third crew, where would you house them?
That's the question.
That's why one of his
You got a
proposals is
garage,
to.
Ron.
You can't get in it.
Well, I think what John's talking about is, well, one, there's been proposals from towns to have us locate out there, but also he's looked at the numbers on a seasonal basis to see, like, summertime, and is there a extra bay at the fire departments that to house the ambulance in and have some crew quarters in. Because that's the other part of that equation is we have people working 24-hour shifts. In order for us to retain paramedics, EMTs, we've gone to 24-hour shifts because it's a competitive market and they can work elsewhere. So they can work for us for a couple days and then go have 5 days to work elsewhere. So in order for us to retain people, we need to have good facilities for them to work out of. So it can't just be,
Yeah.
here's a garage with some folding chairs. You need a little bit of something to make their work environment decent.
Because right now, you got 2 ambulances just sitting idle, right?
Well, right now I got 2 ambulances at, Timber Ford getting, some ball joints put in them, so,
Oh.
but yeah.
But if that wasn't the case,
Yeah,
you'd have.
no, they'd be out in.
Yeah, we do.
One would be in Round Lake and, now that the new one truck is in, there's one in Exon, but we pulled that one back because of the 2 that are down right now. So, and then, now that this new truck, once it gets inspected, if Sand Lake wants to have the ambulance back out in Sand Lake, we can put that smaller one back out there.
Well, when you say put it out there, what about people to run it? I mean, you're just gonna have it sitting there then?
Well, I
And then
got,
hope that somebody's gonna actually run there and
that's,
use
it's-
it?
that's what I was asked to do, so therefore, we have EMTs that live throughout the communities, they're available to take the calls in those areas.
Well, I just wanna say before you commit to something like that, then that township needs to commit to, yes, we will have EMTs available. We're not gonna just have a vehicle sitting there and then there's complaints because we're not getting there, we get this vehicle, but those people aren't getting people to the
Well,
vehicle,
we pay for EMT basic classes, and we do have basic classes going right now. We have 3 students in LCO that are sponsored, and there's a paramedic that's sponsored in Northwood Tech, and then I believe Northwood Tech also has classes going right now, and they do ride-alongs up here, and we do recruit them, and a lot of them are Sawyer County residents, and I do put that out to them that, hey, when you get your license and you can get on with us, those calls when they're out in your area, you're able to respond. So, we just, not a heavy volunteer response anymore.
well, I just hope you understand, like, if you,
Oh.
when you speak to them, that they have to understand that at the same time.
Yep,
They
and
have to
we
make
do,
that
we have,
obligation.
and it's been smile and wave.
Well, it is, so now that one that's out of Exlin, when you get it back, is it gonna go to Sand Lake then, or is it gonna go back to Exlin? Or don't you know that yet, John?
So right now, it depends on what they find out with the truck that's in Timber Ford. One truck I know is coming back, and that's gotta go back to Round Lake, just because it's one of our big 4-wheel drive trucks, and that's the only place that can really house it besides the main bays that we have. And then, the other one, I don't know how long it's gonna be down, hopefully not long. But then, yeah, I got a call into Brad Bates to see if they wanna have it back out there, and he was gonna talk to Rob, and then they were gonna get back to me.
So are there personnel out there to run that vehicle?
I have a paramedic that lives out there, but I don't know of any EMTs that live.
Yeah, well, wouldn't that person be on, does he work?
He usually works he's full-time here.
Okay, so
then when
if he's
you-
working, then
Yeah,
would you have somebody else out in the
no,
Round Lake area?
well, no, there's no EMTs that I know of that live out there.
Volunteers? No?
Not that I know
Then
of.
why do we have a vehicle out there? And is this just so people are going, what's the word what I'm looking for here? Making people happy because that vehicle's there?
That vehicle ain't doing nothing if he ain't got nobody. to do it.
Exactly.
So. But
That,
I know John and them are trying to do their best.
I know, but at the same time, we just can't say, okay, it's there, whatever. I mean, we gotta look at these things. You're doing a good job, John.
Out of curiosity, what does those 3 sponsorships cost in Northwood Tech for EMT courses?
Northwood Tech,
Yeah,
it's about $2,000 a year.
Okay,
So,
all right, thanks. All right, any more, John? You done? Anybody have any more questions for Mr. Fremmel? Mr. Evans, do you?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, thanks, John. All right, number 14, renewing CJCC MOU with LCO.
I don't have anything. Did not get taken up yet at the TGB at the LCO
Okay.
yet.
All right. Review of the opioid funds and approved 2025 budget for opioid funds.
So the CJ, well, initially Human Services reviewed the use of the opioid settlement funds. So you have a present summary there. This has gone through CJCC as well, just to show that in 2023 we had budget opioid funds for awareness campaign primarily on fentanyl. They ended up not using quite a bit of it. They were under budget 80,000 because they received additional funding directly through public health from the state that they were able to use first. With those funds, they were able to be a Narcan distributor, did some evaluation on some of the different programs as far as needle exchange and supervised injection sites. Did quite a bit of training that you've seen some of the marketing for regarding fentanyl and drug overdose training in schools and peer network. Working with the jail and interviewing jail inmates to get a better understanding of the opioid issues in the community and in our jail population. Some additional community education there. So you've got that. In that presentation, there's a summary of the settlement funds. So you can see as of last year in 2024, we had received $316,959. And then this year, so far, we have received we're anticipating to receive another 26,486 this year. It's with all these settlements for those different companies, it's staggered because some are paying multiple years in advance and some are just paying on a monthly basis. So you can see what projected for the next 16 or 12 years out of the 16 years total. So it's anywhere from $50,000 to $78,000, and then it starts to go down as you get into those later years. But all in, we expect to get over $1 million through the course of the settlements. And then they have the 2025 proposed budget. And that's the part that CJCC has approved. Send it to this committee for approval so it can go to the county board. Because what we've done is we don't have an annual operating budget for opioids as they have proposals. They brought the last one back in 23. Now they're bringing a new one forward and showing how it's going to be used. So the opioid funds can be moved out of the opioid fund into the actual annual budget.
Okay, so you need a motion from this committee?
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna make the motion before discussion.
Yes. CJCC approved it,
Yep.
so, yeah, we should have a motion to approve it before we discuss it, or deny it, whatever, but.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Haney
I'll second.
and a second by Mr. Savitsky to approve the opioid funds and improvement budget for 2025. Any discussion? Go ahead, Mark.
Before we do this, I'd like to know what plans we have to stop these kids getting the drugs. I mean, we've got all these, like pamphlets, we've got signs up and that kind of stuff, but what is our plan and funds going towards, stopping the kids from getting the drugs? Or the vapes, and I know that stores can say, well, you're not 18 or 21. I forget what is 18 or 21.
The breakdown it shows they're gonna get 2 peer recovery coaches, sober activities for events, youth and adults.
Right, but
So
that's
it's in there.
recovery. This is all after they've used the drug or whatever it is. But I don't see anything in this budget to try to stop them from getting the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a good answer for that. I mean,
I don't think,
the law enforcement probably be on the stopping end. A lot of it's prevention is education to, inform the kids of the dangers of drugs and vaping and becoming more, and having families be more aware of just the delivery methods that these drugs can come in. So that,
it's just something I thought of recently in the evening at home. I'm like, we got all these signs up and we put these pamphlets out, but, what can we do to actually, stop them from getting them, and I don't know the answer. I don't think the sheriff does,
Go ahead, Sheriff.
Well, without question, prevention gives you a much better return than rehabilitation. And I'm a strong believer in whether it's the DARE programs or us on the street, working with our communities on the prevention side, that's huge. It's an ounce of prevention is worth many pounds of rehabilitation.
and I know you guys are, you're always thinking of different ways to do stuff.
I think Sawyer County had an active team here 2 years ago on the prevention side with the fentanyl awareness team. And that's been followed through going into the next stages. I think that is a huge contributing factor to the reduction, as well as some of the other programs we have going here. All of it together, the collaborative effort is reducing what we have. And sometimes it's tough to measure. But I think if we didn't do everything we did do, we would see the numbers substantially more.
No, I thank you for everything you guys do. Doing a great job.
Thank you.
I don't think you're gonna get rid of it at all.
Oh, no, I'm not.
I mean, whoever wants is
I'm
gonna
just
get it.
saying that.
It's just getting these people to quit bringing it in from other states. And then, that's hard to do. I mean, you guys can't catch everybody that comes in there with that stuff.
Well, the
Unless you
sheriff,
get lucky, right?
the sheriff mentioned the fentanyl program or whatever. And do we have, are there funds going to make sure that
Well, yeah,
program?
I know what you're talking about, Mark.
I didn't know what he was.
Well, I think on the federal level too, with more of a secured border should be a great advantage as well. I mean, that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, you said there was a program 2 years ago that started is that in the area or the?
Yeah, Sawyer County
Okay.
Fentanyl Awareness Team.
Yeah. Is that team still?
yes.
Yes, it's still functional and moving forward, but they're going into the further stages there. As far as not just the awareness part, but getting into more of the advanced stages.
Yep. So yeah, some of the teamwork has focused now on recovery and some of the awareness has been turned over to the nonprofit.
Yes.
And
Cassidy's
they have the
Foundation.
funding that they need to do their job?
Yeah, I think some of that's included here. That's
Okay.
applying the opioid funds.
All right.
The other thing I was gonna go back to how do you kind of address the problem? Sometimes addressing the problem is getting around to the related causes. And I think Lieutenant Rapinski in his report talked about the changes in truancy, which, is a root indicator of not just drug issues, but some of the juvenile justice issues we've had. So I think it's kind of ignored for a while. So I think focusing on truancy will help identify some of the youth that are in jeopardy, so to speak, and help to address the problems earlier.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the opioid funds in the 2025 budget for the opioid funds. Any more discussion? Mr. Evan, or whatever, you have any questions?
The only question I had was, do we have, because I can't, for some odd reason, see any of the materials that are on the screen. Do we have a list of opioid-related overdoses or deaths or just drug deaths in general in Sawyer County, year to year?
Mr. Medical Examiner?
Thank you.
I do keep track of it. I don't have it with me, but if you guys want me to get it, I can get it for you.
I'd be interested in it.
It
Thank you.
is significantly less than before we did this, the opiate teams and stuff, so.
I would like to see that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Great, thanks, Mr. Evans. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries to approve. Then it's gotta go to the county board, right? Okay. All right. Number 15, board appointed committee updates. Do we have anybody that wants to report on anything? Okay. Okay, number 16, correspondence reports from conferences and meetings. We have none. Number 17, future agenda items. Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, just based on some of the discussion today, I'm going to suggest that for this committee that we ask CJCC to, a couple members to come in and make a presentation to public safety. I know Mr. Helwig gets to see it on a monthly basis and the law enforcement team sees it, but CJCC has really evolved to have a whole lot of things going on, like, you know, like the opioid, like even your question about the deaths. There's I think it's a bi-monthly meeting now of the law enforcement, ME, public health that are reviewing those statistics to help drive the conversation. Lieutenant Wooler could tell you about all the things that they're doing with Justice Point on reentry type of work with inmates, mental health in the jail. All those things have accelerated, and it's tough for me to kind of summarize it myself. So I think it'd be good for you, for CJCC to come here and give this committee an update.
That would be great.
Good idea.
Okay. We have no more future agenda items. If you have any, let me or Andy or Liz know, and we'll see if we can get it on the agenda for you. If nothing else, I want to thank everybody and Sheriff's Department and EMS. You guys all be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
For them, it's rock, that's a good job.